The walls of the flat were yellowed with grease and smoke. Old takeout containers rotted in corners. Cockroaches clung to the backs of dusty curtains. And from somewhere deep within the unit, a ninth-floor walk-up in the heart of Hong Kong's bustling Kowloon district, came a sound that no neighbor could quite identify. Sometimes it was a thud, other times a muffled scream. But on most nights it was the television blaring cartoons, loud, constant, incessant. It was the kind of place people avoided, not just because of the stench or the noise, but because the three men living there had reputations, not good ones. They were gangsters, triad foot soldiers, maybe more. Everyone knew they were dangerous. Everyone knew they were cruel. And inside apartment 31, behind a door adorned with Hello Kitty decorations, they were doing something no one in their wildest nightmares could imagine. They were torturing a woman to death. And not just torturing her, playing with her, like a cat plays with a mouse. Her name was Fan Man Yi. She was 23 years old, a girl with a tragic past, a fragile future, and no idea that she'd just stumbled into the last days of her life. Fan had grown up abandoned, raised in a girl's home after being dumped by her parents. As a teenager, she turned to drugs, then to prostitution. Life in Hong Kong was unforgiving for someone like her. But by the late 1990s, she was trying to get clean. She'd married, had a son, found work as a nightclub hostess. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, enough to pay for diapers and rent. And then, one night, she met him. Chan Man Lok, a 34-year-old mid-tier gangster who oozed quiet danger. He was rich, mean, and used to getting whatever he wanted. He visited the club often, usually with two much younger boys who followed him like shadows. Lau Ming Fong was his girlfriend, only 14 at the time. Lung Wai Lun was a 21-year-old drifter and addict. Together, they formed a twisted little trio, bound by drugs, violence, and control. Fan had no idea what she was walking into when she accepted his attention. It began, as these things often do, with a transaction. She slept with Chan, took his money, and, desperate to pay off debts, she stole his wallet. That was her mistake. It held a few $1,000s and some documents. She gave it back. Even offered to pay him back in installments. But that wasn't enough for Chan. He wanted to make an example of her. So, on March 17, 1999, he sent the girl, Lau Ming Fong, to lure Fan to a pre-arranged location. She told Fan she wanted to hang out, get high, talk. Fan said yes. She never came home. Instead, she was taken to the 9th-floor flat in Kowloon, where Chan and the others lived. A dim, disgusting place decorated with cartoon dolls, Hello Kitty posters, and blood-stained furniture. And for the next month, Fan was tortured. They beat her with iron rods and melted plastic straws. They burned her feet until the flesh peeled away in sheets. They forced her to eat feces. At night, they tied her up with electrical cords. They let her sleep only when they felt like it. They forced her to smile and thank them while they filmed her on a camcorder. When she passed out from pain, they poured ice water over her face. When she screamed, they laughed. The teenage girl Lau didn't just watch, she joined in. Later, she would testify that she felt nothing, that it was just a game. And all the while, the TV in the corner played reruns of Hello Kitty. Sometimes, they'd pose the dolls next to Fan while she lay bleeding on the floor. A grotesque parody of comfort and childhood set against the soundtrack of human suffering. After weeks of this horror, Fan finally died. Her body gave out. No one knows exactly when. Her injuries were so severe that even a single punch could have killed her by that point. But her death didn't end the nightmare, because the men weren't finished with her. They didn't bury her. They didn't call the police. Instead, they dismembered her. They cut off her head and boiled it to remove the flesh. They put her skull inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll. stuffed it right in, like it was a joke, a trophy. They threw other parts of her body into the trash or cooked them in a pot. Neighbors later reported smelling something foul, something like rotting meat, but no one called it in. It wasn't until months later, when 14-year-old Lau broke down and confessed, that anyone knew what had happened. She walked into a police station in a daze. She said she was being haunted. She said she saw Fan in her dreams, that Fan was angry, that she wanted justice. At first, the officers didn't believe her. Teenage girls don't usually walk in claiming to be haunted by murdered women. But then she led them to the flat. What they found turned even the most seasoned investigators pale. Blood was smeared across the walls. The smell of decay clung to the carpet and ceiling. In the kitchen, they found a pot, still crusted with human tissue. And in the corner was the Hello Kitty doll. Inside it, tucked between fabric and stuffing, was a human skull. There was no need for a full body to identify the victim. Dental records confirmed it was Fan Man Yi. The trial that followed gripped Hong Kong like a fever. It was one of the most disturbing criminal cases in the city's modern history. The media called it the Hello Kitty murder. People couldn't believe what they were hearing: the cruelty, the remorselessness, the sheer glee the killers took in Fan's suffering. All three defendants, Chan Man Lok, Lung Wai Lun, and Lau Ming Fong, were charged with murder. But there was a problem. Because Fan's body had been destroyed, no one could determine the exact cause of death. Had she died from blunt force trauma, starvation, shock, dehydration? Without a medical determination, the jury couldn't agree on a murder conviction, so instead, they were found guilty of manslaughter. Each received life sentences, with the possibility of parole after just 20 years. Lau, being only 14 at the time of the crime, was sent to a youth correctional facility. The public was furious. How could people do something so sadistic and not even be charged with murder? How could a human head inside a Hello Kitty doll not be enough? But the law had its limits. And so the years passed. Hong Kong tried to forget. But the ghost of Fan Man Yi has never quite left. Her story became legend, haunting urban myths, ghost tours, and cautionary tales about the underbelly of city life. Some say the apartment is still cursed. That strange noises echo through the hallways, that lights flicker, that the cartoon eyes of the Hello Kitty stickers seem to follow you when you pass the door. Others say Lau, now a woman in her late 30s, has changed her identity and lives somewhere on the mainland. She never served a full sentence. But it's said she still wakes up at night, sweating, haunted by the face of the woman she helped destroy. As for Chan Man Lok, he remains behind bars, cold, silent, unrepentant. He never explained what drove him to such brutality. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. There was no motive, no money, no betrayal worth that kind of suffering. Just power, cruelty, and the certainty that no one would stop him. Until Fan died. Until a girl couldn't take it anymore. Until the nightmares spoke. And the Hello Kitty doll revealed its secret. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.